Most comeback stories are loud, viral headlines, trending hashtags, millions of views. But some of the greatest transformations, the most jaw-dropping returns, happen quietly, behind closed doors, away from the spotlight, with no applause, just pure grit, pain, and a refusal to stay down. Today, we're diving into 5 true comeback stories YouTube barely mentions. Stories that prove one thing. Sometimes the greatest victory is simply refusing to quit. 1. The athlete who came back from permanent paralysis. In 2013, 19-year-old college wrestler Jacob Turner was told his career, and possibly his ability to walk, was over. A freak accident during practice collapsed 2 vertebrae in his neck, leaving doctors almost certain he'd never step back onto the mat. He remembers lying in a hospital bed, staring at the ceiling tiles, thinking, "This cannot be how my story ends." The world moved on. His teammates continued the season. His scholarship was put on hold. But Jacob started fighting, inch by inch. At first, he could only twitch a toe, then lift a knee, then stand for 3 shaky seconds. People didn't see the struggle, hours of therapy, tears that soaked the wheelchair cushion, and the frustration of trying to move limbs that felt like dead weight. But slowly, he rebuilt himself, one agonizing session at a time. And 2 years later, in a moment nobody saw coming, Jacob walked into his old gym. Not perfectly, not gracefully, but he walked. Today, he's a coach, training kids who think they are not strong enough. And he always tells them the same thing. Your body breaks before your spirit does, so protect your spirit. A comeback almost nobody knows, but one that proves the impossible isn't always impossible. 2. The tech founder who lost everything and reinvented himself. In Silicon Valley, the worst thing that can happen to an entrepreneur isn't failure. It's public failure. That's what happened to Eric Molden, a young startup founder who raised millions for a fitness app that never launched. Investors sued him, the media mocked him, and his name became synonymous with overhyped disaster. He went from giving TED Talk-level presentations to sleeping in his sister's spare room, scrolling through comments calling him a fraud. He could have disappeared. Most founders do. But Eric did something unexpected. He got a minimum wage job at a bike shop. He spent a year listening to regular people, students, single parents, older folks, talk about what the fitness industry really lacked. Accountability, simplicity, support, no tech jargon, no venture capital hype, just real problems. Using every lesson from his failure, Eric built a new platform from scratch, this time slower, quieter, and without investors breathing down his neck. 4 years later, he launched LiftLog, now one of the highest-rated no-subscription workout apps on the market. The same investors who once sued him, they tried to buy it. He declined, because sometimes a real comeback isn't reclaiming your past success. It's building something better after losing everything. 3. The record-breaking climber who started at age 60. When most people turn 60, they think about slowing down. But for Marjorie Lane, slowing down wasn't an option. At 60, she wasn't fit, wasn't athletic, and had never hiked a real mountain. But after the death of her husband, she fell into a deep depression, until one day she decided she needed to climb out of it. Literally, her first hike was barely a mile. Her legs burned. Her lungs screamed. But she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Purpose. Then she set a crazy goal. To climb the highest peak in every U.S. state. Friends laughed. Family worried. But Marjorie trained every morning, even when it rained, even when her knees hurt, even when people said she should act her age. At 64, she completed her first major summit. At 67, she finished all 50 state high points, becoming one of the oldest people ever to do so. But here's the part YouTube never talks about. She didn't do it for records. She didn't do it for fame. She did it because grief tried to bury her. And she climbed her way back. 4. The musician who lost his voice. Imagine being a singer and waking up one day without a voice. That's exactly what happened to Daniel Voss, a rising indie musician whose soft, raspy vocals captured millions on streaming platforms. But after severe infection, Daniel lost almost 80% of his vocal strength. Doctors told him his singing career was probably over. He spiraled mentally. His label dropped him quietly. His audience assumed he'd moved on. But Daniel didn't quit. He relearned how to speak, then how to hum, then how to sing. Not the way he used to, but in a new, softer style. It wasn't the comeback he wanted, but it was the comeback he needed. He rebuilt his fan base from scratch, posting tiny 20-second clips online. People began to love the new voice, a fragile, emotional tone shaped by everything he'd been through. 3 years later, Daniel's comeback album charted higher than his original debut. Because sometimes a comeback isn't returning to what you were. It's becoming someone new. 5. The lawyer who started life over after prison. Few comebacks are as difficult or as transformative as rebuilding your life after prison. Before his arrest, Marcus Hale was a respected attorney known for defending disadvantaged clients. But a single bad financial decision dragged him into a fraud case he never intended to be part of. He served 3 years. And when he returned, the world wanted nothing to do with him. No law firm would hire him. Friends avoided him. His reputation was permanently scarred. So Marcus took a different path. He started volunteering at non-profit organizations helping former inmates re-enter society. He listened to their stories, saw their struggles, and realized something. The legal system was full of people who needed help navigating life after prison. Marcus couldn't practice law anymore, but he could teach. So he began running free workshops, explaining legal rights, job application strategies, housing laws, and financial literacy. Word spread fast. 5 years later, Marcus runs one of the most respected reentry support programs in his state. Funded not by wealthy donors, but by thousands of former inmates who attribute their success to his guidance. He didn't get his old life back. He built a better one. A comeback rooted not in redemption, but in purpose. Conclusion: music builds. Comebacks aren't about fame. They're not about applause. They're about defiance, the quiet decision to rise when staying down would be easier. Jacob walked again. Eric rebuilt his life. Marjorie conquered mountains. Daniel found a new voice. Marcus turned failure into service. Different people, different struggles, but the same truth at the core. A comeback doesn't start when people believe in you. It starts when you believe you're not finished yet. So if you feel stuck, lost, forgotten, or underestimated, remember these stories. Because sometimes the world won't see your comeback until the very end. But that doesn't matter. Because a comeback is still a comeback, even if YouTube never talks about it. If you did, make sure like and subscribe to our channel for future updates. See you in the next video.